For Dublin City Council, I mean, I know from conversations with various people at Dublin City Council, you don't pretend that Dublin is a perfectly sustainable city now, but you're on a journey to making it sustainable. I mean, the role of technology and innovation there, can it help us catch up?
Absolutely. I mean, on the report which you mentioned just now, which we released today, it's towards a sustainable city. I think it'd be disingenuous to say we're sustainable. I think we'd be caught out pretty quick. But I think the things that we have in place to get there are quite evident and growing. And I think the digital side of things is absolutely part of that. We have Dublinked, which we did in cooperation with IBM and National University of Maynooth. So they're part of it. I think the technology is, of course, vital, and I think that's an inevitability. And I think the local authority maybe can set the scene for that in other ways in terms of governance. I think we talk about smart cities, for example. There's the technology side of things, but then there's just smart relationships between organizations. And I think governance can't be lost because of the deluge of digital data. We're really trying hard to create an ecosystem, and I really like what Thierry said about an ecosystem. And maybe some organizations like the local authorities can provide that firmament that everybody else can operate in. And I guess our job is to try and make sure that everybody gets a bite of that cherry, so the multinationals and the SMEs. So that's something that's very close to our heart, and we're trying to come up with a smart city strategy that respects those differences in scale and opportunity. What we're trying to do is have flagships that provide exemplars that people can go and touch the green buildings. So we're working with the Green Way, and we'll be up in the DCU Innovation Campus. And of course, that'll have to walk the talk in terms of retrofitting it to be an appropriate home for a clean tech cluster. Also, as was mentioned about the Green IFSC, which Dublin City Council is involved in, but specifically around the greening of the IFSC. So bringing companies together, getting support from SEAI, i.e. the government, to improve the energy efficiency, and then look holistically, look at the infrastructure, the street lighting, etc. And we've had great success ourselves in terms of doing things like we have the world's first carbon neutral fire station, Kilbarrack. I always talk about that, and I feel like I shouldn't talk about it anymore, but then I think, well, it's actually a world first, so we shouldn't forget that it's only 3 years ago that we got that. So we're quite ambitious. There's I think there's some European money coming into the system now, and we might try and kind of have a big bang change, perhaps around social housing retrofit, etc. But again, it's the different scales, it's the exemplars, and then the big rollout of massive change. And I think one helps the other.
It's not just about what the government can do with regards to grants and the rest of it. The private sector is able to deliver finance to go into retrofitting, and that is out there. Bill Finger, we do it ourselves. Whether you're looking at waste to energy plants or ESCO, it is out there, and it's easy to do. All we need to do is to ensure that your savings, your profit recovery, as I like to call it, to recover that lost money that you have been wasting for years. As long as the savings are smaller, are greater than the cost of the loan, that's simply what the story is. And we have amongst us today a gentleman called Paul Boylan at Citigroup, who's done an absolutely magnificent job with regards to greening up Citigroup, and is a pioneer for that. And it's so easy to do. That's what I find very frustrating at times, is that it is just simply a service which is out there. The money is available. Bill Finger can do it. There are other organisations that can do it. We just go through a process of working out what the savings are, whether it's on the supply side or on the demand side. It's not rocket science stuff. It's LED lights. I mean, I've changed them years ago in my front room, or throughout the house. And then finding someone who will support that. On the financial side, and then you go through a process and you end up retrofitting your property or the street lighting, as Mike was saying there, and you are now have enhanced the value of your property. You are no longer spending the amount of money that you've been wasted for years, which has been affecting your profit and your bottom line. It has given you kudos with regards to sustainability and with regards to your customers, because they're seeing you as being a green organisation. And it can be very frustrating when people don't see that connectivity, that finance and engineering is one of the same things, a service there which we can deliver, and all other organisations can do that.
I would like to mention another part of the equation I think we didn't touch upon to now when we talk about smart cities and green impact and so on. That is the social part. And when I mean social, it's people. And when I mean people, it's about society. We have done some studies when it comes to smart cities, where the fact of moving to smart cities brings people back into cities and has an enormous impact on the societal fabric of the city. So that's one thing. The second thing, in order to be able to do that, there is another soft part, which is communication. I hear us all talk, and I'm a technologist too, about technology. But we should make it much more simpler to understand so that people see the value of what smart cities are, what smart buildings are, what smart transportation is. And we talk about green, it's a lot about communication. So let's not forget that softer part, but which is an extremely important part, especially for government parties as well, in order to be able to push that front as well.
I think what we're talking about here is market failure. And I think that's where the role of government comes in. So the market goes along and creates the value. And I think what, the retrofit argument makes its own argument. It just makes sense. It makes perfect sense, but it's not happening. And I think things like the government putting, a 35 million euro seed fund, Dublin City Council looking for European money to try and start the process, get the exemplars going, and then people are going, oh my God, I didn't realise it made that much sense.
I think what Thierry said is critically important, that the soft element, it's the people that you need to get the buy-in to. The people will make this work, and the people have a huge impact on the demand side in the first place. But then linking it back to the smart cities, I mean, it's the people that the cities are trying to attract. The people bring the business, or the people create the business. And what you're seeing globally is that there is, over the next number of years, there will be a significant increase in numbers of people living in cities. Now, you want to make sure that they come and live in your city and that they create their business in your city. I mean, just as an interesting stat today, that I think that the top 600 cities around the world create 60% of the global GDP. And that's what we want to do. We want to continue. Cities are the drivers, I think, of the economic growth. So you need to get it right. You need to get that balance. And there is an opportunity there to work with the smart cities and to make it attractive and get the right balance. And if it's transport, if it's energy, if it's lighting. So I think that's where the city role and the city management have a huge role to play in that. And it needs the technology suppliers, and it needs the R&D people who come with the concepts. And it needs people to drive it. It's people who demand it and ask for it and look for it that will actually drive this along. It won't work if it's one company saying this is what we want to do. There has to be a groundswell of people saying we want to have a carbon neutral city, or we want to have electric vehicles or electric buses or bikes or whatever it's going to be. And that's what influences, I think, how the cities change and how the policies are made for it. So again, back to the people.